Hey, what's going on, guys? So, in this video, I'm pretty much going to talk about the maintenance that I've done on this car and the cost of ownership. Because I've been asked quite a few times, is it expensive to own this Audi A5? And the answer to that is yes and no. So, if you're pretty much mechanically inclined, doing the maintenance on this car is pretty easy. I haven't had too much difficulties with this, but like I said, if you're mechanically inclined, it shouldn't be a big deal. Now, if you're a person who goes primarily to the dealers or to an independent shop, then yes, the price of owning this car can go quite a bit because you have to pay for the price of the labor and you have to pay for the parts. So if you do it on your own, ultimately it will be cheaper. So like I said, I'm just gonna go through, front to back, that everything that I've done to this car. And with that, I'm gonna start from under the hood, which is generally where most of the maintenance is done. But like I said, I'm gonna go through the whole car. Now, I have the 3.2 liter V6 engine, 265 horsepower. So it's not that much, but this engine is pretty solid, if I do say so myself. I haven't had really any issues with this engine. Um, like I said, it's been pretty stable. One of the few things that I'm gonna show you guys is in the front of the car, starting with the auxiliary fan control unit that cools the engine down. Now, on the driver's side, the fan was actually coming loose, and as it start, it would actually wobble within its place. So technically, it was broke. I'm just gonna say that it was broke. So, like I said, as the fan was turning, it will shake within it's within its compartment. So I had to replace the entire fan unit. And to do that, I had to take out a couple bolts on the sides and underneath the car. I also had to disengage this transmission line, which houses the fluid for transmission. And after that, you disconnect it from the front subframe right there, and you pull the radiator forward. And with the radiator pull forward, you can lift out the fan unit and replace it. So I replaced that. So it wasn't too bad, like I said, but it was just one of those over the time parts that goes bad. Another thing I replaced is the vacuum pump, as you can see here. The vacuum pump was starting to leak oil coming out through where that hose is right there. So I had to I bought a new one off of eBay. And to replace it, there's 3 bolts that need to be removed. There's that one on the top, and then there's 2 on the bottom. So you release those bolts out, and the vacuum pump pretty much just comes right off. And then you make sure that you cover up your drive belt that I pointed to right there with some type of rag so the oil doesn't drip on the belt. And then you pop off the vacuum pump and then you replace as such. So that one was pretty easy. A couple of things that I did, as you can see as I'm pointing out, are the ignition coils and the spark plugs. I changed the spark plugs on this car about 3 times. That's a little bit overdoing it, but like I said, I'm just trying to keep this car to the best of its ability. So I changed out the spark plugs 3 times. Coil packs, I replaced those as well. Also, in a previous video that I showed, I replaced the map sensor, which is right there. That controls the air value coming into the engine, and that went bad. But that was a quick fix at the dealership, so it was no big deal. The air filters for the engine, I've changed those multiple times. I can't even remember how many times I've changed it. But other than that, it's been pretty solid. There hasn't been any real big issues in this car. Also, the drive belt that I just pointed out right there I've changed that about 3 times. Now, they say regularly you need to change it about 30 to 50,000 miles, but I went ahead and changed it earlier than that sometimes. And it was pretty easy to do because there's enough space with the 3.2 liter V6 engine that you can change it without taking off the front end of the car. So that was very convenient. So yeah, pretty solid engine, pretty reliable. Haven't had any real issues with this car. So I'm pretty grateful about that. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys or tell you is the suspension and the brakes. Now, I had the brakes changed on this car about 3 times, which is pretty simple. I've done them all in my garage. You take off the rotors, you take off the brake pads, the calipers, and you replace the such, and then you do the break-in process. So I've done that 3 times. Another thing that I've done are all the control arms, top and bottom, and I've done the struts and the ball joints. The only thing I haven't changed out are the tie rods, but they are actually pretty well, sturdy. So they haven't really been any issues. Also, you haven't noticed I got different wheels, so I'll address that later on. Same with the rear, brake pads, rotors, and struts. Pretty solid. Nothing's changed much in the rear of the car, just the taillights that I've facelifted. But other than that, no issues. No issues with the fuel pump or anything like that. In the interior of the car, there's nothing on the driver's side. I'm going to go to the passenger side here in a minute to tell you what I've changed on that side. But as far as interior goes, it's been pretty solid. Now, on the passenger side, I'm going to show you that within the glove box, like behind the glove box, there is a AC resistor. And what that AC resistor does is it controls the fan speed of your air conditioning unit. And that was starting to go bad. So what I did is that I took off the glove box, a couple screws, dropped it down, and replaced the AC resistor. And it was pretty straightforward. It wasn't that difficult. You just need a wide open space to have your passenger door wide open. But other than that, there hasn't really been any issues inside the car. I keep saying it, but the car has been pretty solid. So it's pretty reliable. Now, I know the 2.0T version of this car, I don't know if you know, but those cars have issues with the timing chain tensioners. So if you have that version of the car, I'd recommend going to the dealer and having those swapped out if you haven't had them done already, because they are prone to fail in the earlier 2.0T models of the Audi A5. The 3.2 liter V6, I haven't heard any issues like as far as timing chains or serpentine belt or anything that will just go wrong if you don't properly maintain it. So 3.2 is a pretty solid engine, and it's a pretty solid car overall. So, like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. Most of the stuff that I've done on this car was my first time doing it. The brakes, changing out the fans, some plugs, air filters, suspension, all that was done first time on this car. And all I did was go on a couple forums and got some how-to-dos and did it yourselves, and it was pretty easy. So if you are mechanically inclined, owning this car is not that bad. Now, as for the wheels, I did get different wheels. These are the S5 Speedline wheels. They're 19-inch in diameter. They're pretty much the same as my old wheels, but just a different style. I also added 15mm spacers to the front and the rear to kind of give it more of a flush look, but not to the point where it would rub if I go over bumps. Now, they say spacers can actually make the suspension parts stressed out more, but I read that if they are perfectly balanced, the car won't even know that they're there. So, Like I say, if you have any questions, just let me know. Put a question, comments down below. I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.